Yes, my friends, welcome back. We have four massive stories to break down today. Learn the latest news behind surprise interest in Sadio Mane. We discuss potential new sponsors for the 23-24 season. We talk Paul Mitchell as reports suggest that he is being looked at as a new sporting director, but what's really happening with the story? And of course, we must unpack and digest the massive article from The Athletic explaining players' unhappiness behind the scenes with how this season's currently going. So right now, my friends, we've got a ton of things to break down and discuss. I hope you guys enjoy. Get involved in the comments as usual, and of course, hit that like button. I really appreciate you guys hitting the like button for the last video. Let's keep being ambitious. If you like it, let's go over 2K likes for this one. So without wasting any more time, so right now, let's start things off by discussing new sponsor opportunities for next season. At this point in time, our existing shirt sponsor in 3, their deal is coming to an end this season. And in terms of finances, we currently earn around 40 million a year from them. And obviously with the 23-24 season fast approaching, we need to make sure that we secure a new shirt sponsor in a very, very short amount of time. And this is where Allianz come into the fray, because it has been reported by Sky Sports and a few other media outlets that Allianz plus a host of secretive companies are in the running right now to become our new shirt sponsors for next season. Now, Allianz are the second biggest insurers and asset managers in the world, and they have a ton of history already, sponsoring some of the biggest sports teams in Europe. You're looking at Bayern Munich, their stadium, Juventus, and their stadium as well too, plus a host of other clubs. And in terms of their marketing portfolio, it would make a lot of sense for them to have Allianz in the Premier League with a massive club like Chelsea FC in London. So I can understand why this makes a lot of sense. And a part of me is also thinking too, we have hopes of securing a new stadium. Could we potentially see Allianz becoming the new name of our stadium in the future? Who knows? I don't know how you guys have felt about that, but again, I'm only trying to hypothesize. There's nothing to it. Anyway, as Todd Bowley first took over at this football club, he discussed that he felt like we were underperforming when it came to commercial activities, and he felt like we could definitely secure much bigger and better deals. So if we're currently earning around 40 million with 3, it is exciting to think of the fact that we can earn more money from these sponsors. I mean, let's not forget too that the sleeve sponsor and Welfin, they're also leaving us at the end of the season. That was bringing in around 20 million. So hopefully there's opportunities here to really level up the finances we can earn from these types of deals. And as you guys have been seeing on screen right now, these are some concepts for what our kits could look like for next season. A lot of these concepts, of course, are ideas, imaginations, and they're built on from current leaks around what the colorways could be like for next season. What's your guys' thoughts and opinions on this? I think these designs are quite interesting, quite fresh, but there's one thing that has to get right with any new kit for us, yeah? For me, I've always felt like the color blue has to be the right type of blue. It has to be like a royal type of blue. It has to be like a rich type of blue. I don't want any pastel-y type of colors. That doesn't align with our history, in my opinion. Some of the other kits for the second kits, third kits, they look quite interesting, but I like to also think that they may be a little bit better. But I feel like every year, every season, when I talk about new kits, I'm always saying that I don't like it, and then when I buy it, it grows on me, and then it's not too bad. So what do I know at this point? I leave taste up to you, my friends. So there you have it. That's the first story out of the way. Expect big things to happen commercially for this summer and for next season too. So I guess right now, let's turn our attentions to Bayern Munich, where we discuss surprise interest in Sadio Mane. Now, this report was first confirmed by Christian Falk. Sometimes his reports aren't always as concrete, but I don't think he's lying. I just think that the nature of this sport when it comes to news is constantly changing. So by the time we hear it, technically it's already old news. Regardless though, it seems like Bayern Munich are open to buyers for Sadio Mane. Mane has had a lot of difficulties in his first season, and who would have actually thought a player like Mane, who's always been known as a good boy in the Premier League, no dramas, no controversy, no nothing, he stepped into Bayern Munich and now he's punching up guys like Leroy Sané in the changing room. It's been a crazy season for them. Regardless though, Christian Falk announces our interest because he reports that it's believed that at Bavaria that there is already existing interest in Sadio Mane. And considering the fact that we do reportedly have an excellent relationship with Bayern Munich, especially when we negotiated the sale of Anthony Barry to reunite with Thomas Tuchel, it seems potentially that something could be done. And that's really the main bit of news that came out. Obviously, I'm going to give my classic, thoughts and opinions. And I do have to say, to be very fair to Sadio Mane, because it's very easy to base your opinions off looking at a few headlines and looking at his stats on who scored or something, and then you're making up all these details to kind of align with what you're taking in. To be fair to the guy, it hasn't been the easiest period. I think the whole team has suffered by not having like a proper number 9 in the team that really affects how the other guys can play and how they can build up. Mane has also carried injuries at the same time, and also I think that Nagelsmann, his ideas on like power football, intensity football, they don't necessarily work to the best abilities of like players he had at his disposal, like your Manes and technicians who play on the floor, do pass and goes, movement, where you have to create the structure for these guys to play. They don't want to be told what to do, when and where. And I think it's no surprise by in the end there was a lot of issues between Nagelsmann and the Bayern players, with Mane being at the spear front when it comes to players who weren't very happy at all with Nagelsmann. And even touching upon that, this is kind of why I'm okay with us not targeting Nagelsmann, because I don't want to see like another Thomas Tuchel type of manager where it's all about the team over everything else. I just think that this is why we haven't been able to level up, because when you play power intensity football, like, you do have like a shorter shelf life. On top of this too, Mane has been used in a multitude of different positions. He's played equally as a striker, an attacking mid, a left midfielder, a left winger. There's been no sense of continuity in his game, and of course a player of his level at his age, in his peak prime, you're going to get frustrated by details like this. At Liverpool, he only played on the left wing sometimes as a striker, but even then, this season, Mane still has 17 goals in 37 games. But the players at this level, the highest level, he's going to be disappointed by these numbers. And we'll see Mane underperforming because he isn't living up to his best standards. For me though, it's a bit of a weird type of story, because if there was interest, which I guess could make a lot of sense, I mean, Mane would actually complement the football that Pochettino would want. But then there are massive implications. For me, I'm expecting there to be surprise sales from players that we weren't expecting wanting to leave because these guys aren't happy behind the scenes. For example, could that be Sterling out and Mane in? Who knows? And a part of me thinks, do we need to add more attacking players? I'm not as confident personally, but at the same time, Bayern Munich also know that how many clubs can really afford Mane? I mean, he's earning around like 12 million euros a year, around 10 million a year. How many clubs can afford him if they want to sell him and recoup their losses? So it's no surprise why we be in the forefront when it comes to interest, because we're one of the few clubs that can afford to sign him to begin with. I'm going to have more thoughts and opinions on this story if more concrete news does come out in the future, but these are some general thoughts right now. So I guess right now, let's move on to tackling one of the big stories that came out yesterday, and that involves the Athletic article giving us some insight behind the scenes of why players are so unhappy. Now, this article doesn't paint the prettiest of pictures, but I'm going to go through some of the key talking points from the article because it's a very long one, and I do think it's best for people to read this themselves to form their own opinions instead of just blindly listening to a YouTuber. Anyway, it has been described that with this current season, it's had one of the worst moods in the dressing room ever seen at this football club, and this comes from an anonymous source who's been an employee at our club for years. Now, what's the major reason causing all of this unrest? It comes down to squad blow. Squad blow is the significant factor at play. You got some examples in the article about how training sessions have become even harder now. They're not as focused at all right now. Players are constantly playing in different groups every single week. You're not building any type of continuity or understanding with your teammates. There's tons of unhappy players that know that they'll never be playing games at all, and they're constantly, of course, with the group of players that do get game time. So it's not a very healthy place to be in mentally right now. We got examples of how, simple things like the whole staff and players having lunch. The queues are so long that the queues are stretching outside the building just to get your food. Like, at the highest level, it's all about optimization. It's all about streamlining. It's all about making this type of stuff a lot easier. You shouldn't have to waste mental energy or be stressed out over, details like that when you need to focus on training to really maximize your game. Might sound insignificant, but imagine this at Man City or Real Madrid or like massive institutions. Like, this would never happen. We're getting reports that coaching staff are currently stretched so much right now due to the amount of players that they have to work with. And I guess this news was revealed to us actually by Thiago Silva after that loss to Real Madrid, where he came out and basically said, listen, stop signing players, put a strategy in place. You know, Thiago Silva is a legend in the modern era. He's been at the biggest clubs in the world. A guy like this, if he's upset and annoyed by how things are happening behind the scenes, then you know it's serious. And you know, it's not good enough. The article goes on to state that there's many players who are actually contemplating wanting to leave. And these aren't like maybe the babe players who have like 12 months left on their deal. A lot of them are guys who have more years on their deal. We got some insights behind how players have recently signed long-term contracts. They didn't say if they're new signings or guys who, of course, like did contract extensions, but it did reveal that a lot of these guys are kind of regretting signing long-term deals with us. And on top of this too, the fact that a lot of these guys' wages will be getting reduced now because we are missing out on Champions League football for next season. It's like reality is now kicking guys in the face because they're going to feel to themselves, this is completely unfair. Like, you must know nothing about football if you think that you just sign top players and they just make it work just like that without any structure, identity of play, you know, build up and continuity with your teammates. Important things, like the real things that lead to footballing success, not just signing the sexiest names and thinking it's going to work. They'll be thinking to themselves, it's not fair that we're paying the price financially for terrible decision making at the top. And to end things, we got some revealing information that the loss of Jorginho really impacted the squad because Jorginho was one of the most popular guys in the squad for years. Like, everyone loved him, his energy is infectious, he's positive, he's a good teammate. There's a reason why no one had any bad words for him, and the fact that when he was sold, you know, Jorginho's revealing to his teammates, listen, I'm signing for Arsenal right now. Everyone was surprised. Everyone was taken aback. No one realized that. And the article goes on to state that right now, with all the bad form and bad energy and bad everything, players aren't even really hanging out like that right now. Like, in their off time, they're staying by themselves with their friends, their family, whatever. But before, there was a lot more like community. And this is what I mean, and I'll give some quick thoughts and opinions now, but I always keep saying that this sport is a human type of game, yeah? It doesn't matter if you're a pro at the highest level. You're not a robot. You can't just expect to play your best football instantly just like that when you don't have those like emotional foundations in place. And without trying to sound too soppy or nothing like that, all I'm trying to say is that, you know, if you don't have that sense of like team spirit and togetherness with your teammates, you know, how's that going to help you do what you have to do on the field? And are you really helping things when you're introducing so many new staff members? I mean, for example, you know, recently we rehired an old physio who got sacked because, you know, Barley and Co want to just completely scorch the earth and bring in brand new faces completely. But the reality is there's a human element where you have to then build new relationships with all these people. And like during a season of so much like conflicts and upheaval and change at the same time, it becomes just like a case of diminishing returns, in my opinion. You know, it's a bit too much when there's not only new players here, and there's a ton of new players here too, but then there's a squad that's full of guys who are surplus requirements, you know, summer signings, January signings, Cobham guys, teen talents, old players. It just doesn't make sense because a lot of these new guys, you know, they're coming into a dressing room where it's like the identity, like the core of the team spirit is slowly getting stripped away. And I think, obviously, in hindsight, because at the time we were all getting carried away and gassed by all these new reports and players being signed. I mean, I most definitely was. Obviously, reality was the thing that we all kind of forgot. And the reality is that how do you make this now work? I mean, all these guys have to literally build new relationships just like that. And they're not going to do that in one day and instantly just be a team. You know, a lot of times that type of team spirit is a lot deeper than that type of superficial stuff. And it's quite obvious that it's the management's fault for this. You know, I sympathize with the players and the coaching staff too, because no one can be their optimum selves right now. Everyone's sacrificing something for nothing at this point in time. And it's so obvious that the change had to be a bit more gradual. You know, for all the new guys we signed, they could have been signed on pre-contract agreements. Maybe in hindsight too, you keep some of the old management at the club and you slowly change it over the next 2 seasons and not force all this change in 1 season, because this is why we're having one of the worst seasons we've seen in our recent history. And it's at a point right now where I just can't blame the players. It's not like they're not trying. Like when they're on the field, they just look lost, because there's no real coaching, because it's kind of impossible right now, it seems, to build any type of identity around a squad that you still don't know what the final image of this squad is going to look like. You know, 4 different managers right now of like equaling abilities who have all struggled. It tells you that it's not just down to managers and coaching. And with this particular season, it's an anomaly, because ask yourself this: many of you ever seen this amount of change and this amount of players signed in 1 window ever? I've never seen this before, and it's quite obvious that we're paying the price for rushing way too much and putting business first over the team. So they're my thoughts and opinions. Share yours. How do you guys feel about this? And before we end things, we have one more big story to discuss. Now, this report came out late last night. It involves Paul Mitchell, the ex-sporting director of Monaco, and we've had a lot of like long-term interest in him. And the Sun reported that currently we are looking to sign him to make him part of our transfer team. Now, when I was reading this last night, I was really scratching my head, and I had a lot of questions to ask myself, because it didn't make too much sense to me. Now, of course, the article from the Sun didn't actually reveal what role he'd have if he was to sign for us. All it stated was that with all the players that we have to sell in the summer, are we looking to get like an extra set of hands to help us, you know, move these players on and hopefully try and like fine tune the squad. And I was thinking to myself, okay, when Hakim Ziyech's failed move to Paris Saint-Germain happened, that was because the entirety of our team was focused on securing Enzo Fernandez because we had to. And then I was thinking to myself, in the summer, when we're hoping to sign new players, do more contract extensions, as well as selling a ton of players, we could see over 10 players being sold. It's going to be so much we're going to see at this football club. Is there going to be enough time to properly sign new guys, sell all these guys, and could an extra set of hands be needed to help with this transition? Like, imagine the man hours that these guys are going to have to put in during the summer. It's going to be a very intense time. But then at the same time, it's like, we've got Lawrence Stewart, we've got Paul Winstonley, and I thought these guys are basically like co-sporting directors. We're seeing the issues with the squad this season of just introducing new signings, new guys just like that. Why would we undermine the transfer team by recreating the same dynamics and the same problems? I don't think we need another guy like this at the top right now. Why would he recreate squad below issues with management at this football club? If we were to do something like that, then I'm going to get really worried, because I just don't think it's going to work at all. They'd have to answer to him, or they answer together. I mean, Winstonley and Stewart already in control of things at this point in time. It would just kind of undermine everything. And interestingly, of course, maybe to no surprise, articles came out early this morning suggesting that this news was maybe not as accurate as it was first suggested last night. And I think Paul Mitchell isn't a thing anymore. And I think right now it's about fine-tuning this talented mess we have. So my friends, on that note, that is the end of today's video. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions. Expect to see my ass tomorrow, some more videos, so stay tuned for that. And of course, you guys enjoy the sun, enjoy your day, and live your best life. So on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.